Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It's Thursday and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got Chris Beesley. Chris, how are things? All good?
All right, and I didn't have a lot of sleep last night on my way back from London via Milton Keynes, but yeah, it was another positive display I thought from Everton, and perhaps could have and should have been a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to let our audience know that you're not too happy with your travel and hotel arrangements for last night, were you?
Well, like I said, there's a late finish and then an early start for us, but yeah, safely back in one piece.
That's the main thing, isn't it? I'm back to do the podcast.
Exactly. Straight in to see you guys.
What more can you ask for? Also sat round the table with us, we've got Tony Scott. Tony, it's been a couple of weeks, I think, since you've been on, since pre-derby, I suppose.
It has, yeah.
I know how desperate you were to get on that Derby podcast. I did try my best. I honestly did try my best. And then we even talked about trying to do an additional show, didn't we? It just wasn't going to happen because of time constraints, etc. But again, doesn't matter. We've got you back on now, so that's all that matters.
I was gutted about the Derby one, but I'm sure, the Derby's going to get mentioned right throughout till the end of the season, is it, in terms of what happened. But yeah, I'm here and happy to discuss all things Everton as they're flying in the league as well now.
Yeah, absolutely. Today's agenda, it's the post-Brentford reaction show. Everton obviously left frustrated that they couldn't take all 3 points at the Gtech Stadium. A few misses from Betto, but it was Everton's current right back, Jake O'Brien, who snatched the goal with a diving header to secure an important point for the Blues. So we'll get into that, and I've got a feeling that the debate on Beto will be certainly very interesting. I feel like Tony and Chris maybe are going to gang up on me a little bit. So, well, if anything, before all the talk pre-recording started anyway, if that's the case. As always, give this video a thumbs up, drop us a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. We're not live. This is a pre-recorded show. Timestamp it now. So it is Thursday and it's 1:30. So the show is going out Thursday on YouTube and across all of our Royal Blue audio platforms. Just a few additional plugs. I guess you start off with the first one. We're not going to reveal on the show right now, okay, but we're going to tease that we've got a bit of a special announcement that we're going to put out on Sunday. And there's a special, podcast that's going to be released on Monday.
Yeah, we've got the latest edition of Goodison Park, My Home. Like I said, we're not going to let you know just yet who that is, but it's a massive Everton name, and we're delighted to have him on. So look out for that one, and it was on location as well. So we're out and about, safe like me, safely coming back from Brentford, safely got all the equipment back in place now. But yeah, I'm sure one for all Evertonians to look forward to, that one.
And we might as well tell the audience that on the way back from that we nearly died. We nearly crashed the car. Well, you nearly crashed the car, didn't you?
Well, somebody nearly went into ours, didn't he? We can laugh on it. We can laugh about it now. Ian wasn't best pleased at the time. Let on the workman know who was having a ding dong with.
Less said about that, the better, probably. Another additional plug you may have seen on social media. We had Liverpool City Region Mayor Steve Rotherham in the Royal Blue studio yesterday, which was a Wednesday. He was talking all things Everton transport, accessibility to the stadium as well. And that podcast will be out tomorrow, Friday, both as a video on YouTube and as a podcast on all of our audio platforms. So plenty of high-profile guests on the Royal Blue podcast of late, and hopefully plenty more in the future. We will get down to it though, Chris. We'll get your initial reaction from the game last night. Everton 1, Brentford 1. Disappointed, I guess, in the end not to take all 3 points considering what happened.
Was a bit, but it was a curious game in many ways. I thought it was very encouraging, the fact that Everton certainly, I felt, finished the game the stronger side, which is great testament to them, really, considering they've had 6 really intense fixtures over February, the shortest month of the year, and yet they've had all these games, and obviously it's only 2 now in March. But it was strange because they spent most of the first half on the back foot defending, yet for all that defending that they had to do, they had the 2 biggest opportunities to score in that first half, and I think that Beto probably should have scored both of them, and we can go on to all that as we go on. But he didn't. And then I think if you miss chances like that at the Premier League level, it's liable to get punished, and obviously that's what we saw with the sucker punch in first half stoppage time. But they did well to recover at the end of the second half, and I thought they finished the game really strongly. And the fact that they were, we've seen in recent games, as much as they've done well under David Moyes, they do tend to tire, and it's only understandable given the lack of options and the intensity of the play. But whereas at Brentford, I thought they could have gone on to nick our 3 points, and again, Beto had a chance near the end. So yeah, we'll take that as a positive point, but perhaps could and should have been a bit more, really.
Do you agree with that, Toe? I mean, we'll come on to the Beto chances, but in terms of first half performance, it was probably a little bit of lacking considering what we've witnessed over the past couple of weeks.
It was. I think it was pretty much similar to the Crystal Palace first half, wasn't it? Where they just looked a little bit jaded, and we know, listen, the injuries that they've currently got, and with the short amount to pick from, it must be tough for David Moyes to keep on asking the same 12 or 13 players week in, week out to try and get a performance, and not just a performance, they're getting results as well, which is pleasing to see. Yeah, they looked a bit leggy, which is understandable. As I've just touched on there, they're using the same back four, the same midfield, the same wingers, same forward lines. It's getting changed out every single week, and that has an effect on the legs. And not just that, and it's worth noting as well, is that they changed the style of play completely in the short space of time. So that must weigh heavy on the legs, where they've gone from reverting to long ball and bypassing the midfield. Now the defence are actually getting it from the goalkeeper. Now the midfields are looking to get involved, and now the strikers looking to get in behind. So I bet you if you look at, obviously on paper and all the data and whatnot, I think you'll see more yards and more work from this Everton team by the style of football David Moyes wants them to play rather than the previous manager. So not just injuries, not just performances, not just results. It's going to take a toll on a depleted squad at the moment. So what they're doing at the moment, it's only testament to how well David Moyes has took to this job so far.
I mean, we lacked a bit of intensity, I thought, in the first half. So what would you put that down to? Toes obviously mentioned fatigue, which I do agree with. Obviously, everything that we've been through the past couple of weeks, and he's using pretty much the same players. Yeah. But we obviously were missing Abdoulaye Doucouré. Obviously, his missus is obviously going to give birth, so good luck to him, obviously, with that. But for all the faults that Abdoulaye Doucouré has on the ball, it's clear that when he's not in the team, we maybe lack a little bit in our pressing game. I think that was clear to see for me.
Yeah, he leads the press, doesn't he? And that's why he was brought back in against Manchester United after that one-game suspension. Alcaraz had done incredibly well, and he did incredibly well, I thought, at times last night as well. But it's a different sort of threat when Doucouré's in the side, so he didn't have that. And then also, I know they've struggled at home in recent times, Brentford, but they have been a team, I think, a lot of the time. They do tend to get off to a flyer. It was almost like Tranmere, the old school Tranmere at times last night, with the old long throws and the towels on, the towels on the sidelines.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of balls in the box that Everton had to defend, and they're quite intense like that. Quite an old school approach. I mean, you'd hope it'd be meat and drink for the likes of Tarkowski and Branthwaite and Jake O'Brien and stuff, but. It was understandable, and you can see why that happened. But that was the telling thing. Despite all that defending they had to do, it was Everton who created those two clear-cut opportunities, whereas Brentford had a few speculative efforts, and when the goal did actually come for them on the stroke of half-time, it's probably one Everton should have felt they should have defended a bit better, really. They had a couple of chances to clear that, and they didn't do.
I felt it was a little bit weird, because if you look back at the United game, like the intensity and the press was there in the first half. We dominated United on and off the ball, I thought, and then faded quite clearly in the second half. But then quite polar opposites, to be honest, against Brentford. From what I could see, we lacked that intensity in the first half, but then maybe Brentford faded and we got stronger. That's what I thought anyway.
Yeah, it's difficult to press for 90 minutes. Not many teams can do that. Yeah. I think Liverpool are a lot more controlled this year, aren't they, compared to where they were last year when they were getting injuries, pressing from front. Now they're more controlled. It's very, very difficult for any Premier League team to do that, and that's with the squads that the big teams have got. We haven't got that, so we've got to press in patches. And when we do, we have done in recent weeks, especially at home, against Liverpool, we were very good at it, in patches. Against Tottenham, we were brilliant at it, but then obviously we faded again against Manchester United last week. got off to a flyer, pressing from the front, but it's hard to replicate that for 96, 97, 98 minutes, whatever it may be. So I think, listen, once David Moyes gets his bodies in, gets his squad in, gets his recruitment team in, and then he'll look to, obviously you can see, we're playing with one centre forward, playing with the same back four, same two midfield. It's very difficult to keep them numbers and keep pressing all the time. So you've just got to work it to an advantage. Like, we'll press for 20 minutes here, see how we get on. And I think that's what's happened against the Crystal Palace in the first half. We weren't at the races. Second half, come right at them, because obviously we went on to win that. And yesterday again, we didn't press them high in the first half. Second half, flew at them and should have won the game, as Beesley just touched on. So, yeah, I think again against Manchester United with the same example, wasn't it? That we pressed them high, resulted in a lot of mistakes from them. And that's the way I think we'll play a lot more like that at Goodison, in terms of starting from the front. As soon as the whistle's blown, getting at them and hopefully blowing them away, like we did do with Tottenham, like we did do it in previous matches. But away from home, it's very difficult to do that, A, in the atmosphere, and B, the toll on the legs as well, because the onus is on the home team to try and get hold of the ball. So I think we'll see horses for courses in these remaining games.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's a good point, because if you look at the Palace game, it was very similar. We probably started the game a little bit poorly. Palace were all over us. They had the chances. They missed their chance. Beto scored his chance there, whereas he missed it against Brentford. And then we kind of finished the game stronger, and we managed to get the winner there, didn't we?
Yeah, and that's the difference. And do you know what? If you look at it, as I touched on there, we're using the same 12 or 13 players. It's very, very difficult to do that pressing game. It really is. And listen, I didn't even think we'd be adventurous in playing football as we are when David Moyes came in. I thought we'd be a little bit more adventurous, an attacking threat compared to the previous manager. But now we're so far advanced. It's way beyond what I expected anyway.
I mean, Chris, we'll come on to Jake O'Brien, but before we do, I guess it's when another game goes by and there's no injury or there's no illness, that's a positive in itself, because let's face it, we are using the same 12, 13 players, you know, starting and then they're coming on as subs. And Moyes is using them really well. He's using them cautiously, but he's using them also as an attacking threat when needed, I think. But I don't think really we can afford any more players to leave that first 11, can we?
No, and then it was encouraging enough, so we didn't see either of them come on, but just the fact that there's a little bit of green shoots recovery in that respect, with both Youssef Chamiti and Nathan Patterson were both on the bench last night. So there's obviously a lot more to come, you know, Ndiaye, Calvert-Lewin, Bro, Mangala's out for the season, McNeil, there's still quite a few of them left to come, but we've got to hope, like I said, with 6 games in February, there's only 2 now in March, and then there's the international break before the derby. It's a chance for some of them at least to come back in that sort of less intensive period, but like I said, he's done all he can really in terms of the bodies he's got available. Timur Obenham's look encouraging, like and his cameos coming on. You know what Ashley Young brings. He was a regular under Deitch and is now having to get by in the bit part role. But other than Michael Keane at the back, he's not really got any other options there. So yeah, he's doing the best he can in those circumstances. But in terms, you say, avoiding any further illness and injury, that's got to be a plus, hopefully, because you got the warm weather break now, which I understand they've already flown out to Abu Dhabi, and they'll be there for about a week, and then obviously preparing for the Wolves game.
Didn't get the invite, Bees, no.
They couldn't let you guys down, could they?
No, there was like that on Milton.
Yeah.
No, funny that one. I mean, Jake O'Brien, like, I think he's, you know, proven to be an assured player both in defence and attack. He's obviously being played out of position, but he's taken on for the team. But he looks like a really decent right back as well, doesn't he? Let's face it. Got his goal, first Everton goal, and it was a decent diving header.
And it begs the question, why weren't he being used previously, doesn't it?
I mean, he's had the comments over the past couple of days, hasn't he? Yeah. Aimed at Sean Dyche, where they quite clearly weren't getting along.
Yeah, and you can see that, don't you? You can just see it in the player's body language. You can see it. He's aimed at. It's nice to see a manager now that wants to play football, and he's mentioned that himself. You can see the comments, and that's refreshing. And listen, we weren't happy with the previous way we were watching, but it was getting results. And when you're not getting results, obviously a change needed to happen. New managers come in, and he's thought, right, let's stop these crosses from getting him. And the previous manager was happy with balls coming into the box because he thought that Tarkowski and Branthwaite would head everything away. Whereas in Moyes now, I don't know if you've noticed stats, but we concede, and we've got we concede more corners than we've ever done all season because the fullbacks are stopping crosses now. They're not allowing crosses to come in. That's why you'll see all of a sudden the likes of O'Brien and obviously Mikalenko, they put the bodies on the line to stop the cross. They're not happy with it because, as we've seen, the odd time a centre-back will make a mistake and misjudge your header like we've seen yesterday against Brentford. It might bounce, and obviously, yeah, it's a mistake, and Moyes is quite happy to mention that. But them things will happen. But if you block the cross in the first place, obviously that one was a throw-in yesterday, but 9 times out of 10, you watch Everton's full-backs over the previous 5 or 6 games, you've got O'Brien and you've got Mikalenko, they are trying to stop everything. So you can see quite clearly why David Moyes has put him in. He's a big lad straight away, so he's a presence from obviously in the opposition box like we've seen last night, and he's also a presence when heading the ball away from set pieces. So yeah, listen, I had question marks over the San. I hold my hands up. I thought, why isn't he getting used? What's going on here? But he's done okay, to be honest. He's done really good. Will he be a replacement for Jared Brantwaite if he's sold in the summer? We don't know. But one thing we do know, we've got a very good defender at the moment, and we should recognise that.
I mean, if you think back to the Tottenham game, Chris, Moyes kind of deployed when we weren't in possession.
Yeah,
it was kind of a 3 at the back with the wing backs, wasn't it? So O'Brien kind of fitted in as the third centre back. It's very quickly evolved for me, where now he is probably just more of a right full back. So his role has evolved quick, and he's adapted to it as well, and he's proven himself to be a good player.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, that, wasn't it? Because it probably was his first Premier League start and his first time as a right back. So it was maybe a bit of the unknown as well, to do something a bit unorthodox for Tottenham, but also ease him in that role, because, like say, at times he took in and Lindstrom would push back alongside him. But now, as he's grown into the role, he's really taken it on. It's interesting because in the pre-match preview for this game, I was talking to David Moyes about this, and he was quite candid about it. He says, we're not trying to change him. We know naturally he's a centre-back. And it was just similarities to what happened with Julian Lescott in his early days. Somebody he'd scouted extensively for Wolverhampton Wanderers, but hadn't had any Premier League experience. And a lot of the times, bizarrely, it was Leighton Baines, wasn't he, who couldn't get a game early on, and he's go on to be Everton's best left back of modern times. And then Lescott was just to get a game was playing left back, and it's the same now with Jake O'Brien on the other side. He knows he's not a natural right back, but I think Moyes was quite honest. He said we had to do something, as Toe says, in terms of stopping the crosses, to do something just to change it, because by all accounts, Ashley Young hadn't had a bad season. A lot of people saying he'd done well this year individually, but Moyes just had to do something, and limited options of what he could do in terms of shuffling the pack. And O'Brien was the one, the big sign in the summer, as Toe said. There's question marks over that because of all the money they'd spent on him, but he couldn't get a look in under the previous manager. So he's coming in, he's done well, and like you say, when he's bombing on, I mean, it's like a juggernaut, isn't he? You wouldn't want
to get in the way, would you?
You wouldn't want to get in the way, and I think that was the thing with the Brentford left back when
they
he
were
attacked
just bouncing off him, weren't they? Even when he was running a pace, it's quite hard to keep your balance if someone shoves you. They were just bouncing off him.
Yeah. So that's one I think. He's not just a big lump, is he? He's athletic, he's quick. And he's got a goal in him. It's interesting. Obviously, that was his first goal, not just for Everton in English football, because he had a loan spell at Swindon Town when he was younger as well. Didn't obviously get a game at Palace, but I think 5 goals for Lyon last season. I think 3 in Belgium the year before. And I was fortunate enough to be on his debut less than a week after he signed up at Preston North End, when Jesper Lindstrom also got on the score sheet that day. But yeah, he came on as a sub. Nice turn, and was back to goal, finished that one. So he's got a goal in him. He has got that, and whether that's a finish or, like you say, after we being 6'6", a header like last night. Hopefully he's got that in the locker. He probably should have scored one. So a couple of weeks ago, hit one on the post from point blank range. So yeah, he's got that in him, and he's still quite cultish in terms of he's learning the game, and he's probably a lot older than people sort of realise. He's going to be 24 before the end of the season, before the end of the season finishes. So he's probably come to it relatively late, but he's learning on the job now, and he's improving all the time.
I think it shows in that the fact that I don't want to say with the previous manager, but where David Moyes' keeping up with the Joneses in terms of the current managers in the Premier League. This isn't an uncommon theme. Centre backs playing at right back or full back. You've seen actually Joe Gomez has played there for Liverpool. Manchester City have played a lot of their centre backs in full backs. Dan Burn, centre back playing for Newcastle. There's quite a lot playing there just to obviously, hang on, we've got a bit of height there. Let's utilise it on the wings. We're not going to get out jumped to the back post, and it can get on the ball as well. So this is an uncommon theme in the Premier League. It's just nice that we've got a manager that's willing to utilise that now.
I'm kind of glad you brought that up because it was going to be my next point. I feel if you say that a lot of clubs are utilising centre backs as right backs, that's fine. But you can be critical of Sean Dyche for maybe not playing Jake O'Brien as maybe a centre back. But for me, I'm going to be totally honest, I did not see him fitting in as a right back at all.
No one did.
Yeah, that's
no
what
one
I mean.
did really. No one.
You can't
did.
be critical of Dyche for saying, well, why couldn't you have played him right back over Young or something like that?
Well, I guarantee David Moyes would have tried Jake O'Brien at right back at Finch Farm before he played him.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah.
why wasn't that happening under the previous manager?
With Moyes, he likes to be flexible. With Dyche, it was a bit more like, well,
that's it, tried and trusted. Yeah, of course, and that's the difference. And that's why the better managers will get the best out of their players by utilising them and then players being flexible. How many times when David Moyes was previously here, you had Marouane Fellaini and Tim Cahill, Phil Neville, they're all playing in different roles every single week. Jack Rodwell was playing centre-back, he's playing centre midfield. Our striker was playing on the wing all the time, Lanton's all over. The list is endless, the amount of players that were playing in numerous positions. And if you want the best out of your team, you've got to do it. And especially when money was tight at the time, and you've got injuries and you've got a small squad, you've got to utilise your squad. And that's the one thing the previous manager didn't do. That's one thing that David Moyes is currently doing right now.
I was just going to say, for a couple of moments, it was maybe a bridge too far. Did you notice last night, for a couple of minutes, Mykolenko and O'Brien actually swapped wings? You had Mykolenko at right back and O'Brien at left back, and I think maybe that was a bridge too far. The two inverted wing backs, and I think James Tarkowski made a comment about that. He seems to be having a word with O'Brien, saying he should have got back a bit quicker than that. Yeah, a few nervous minutes for seeing those two fishes out of water. But yeah, in terms of being as a right back, he's done really well. But left back, not too sure.
Well, you brought Mykolenko up, might as well just quickly talk about him. Got his first assist, I think, in 100 Premier League games. Quite clearly getting different instructions now under David Moyes in terms from an attacking sense, because he is getting forward more, and once you do start doing that and you get crosses in the box, you'd like to think more often than not a striker's going to get on the end of it. Obviously, it was the right back who got on the end of his cross yesterday. Yeah,
he's got that in his locker, and I think Moyes said that afterwards. He should be doing more of that. it was kind of like that double-edged comment where we praised him, but also saying you want to see more of that, because what he also mentioned has happened a few times. It was frustrating in the second half. They're getting the crosses in, they're straight down the keeper's throat, straight at him. He was grabbing them all. He wasn't getting near any sort of strikers. So he finally found his range with Big O'Brien at the back post. But you would have liked to vote maybe Beto could have gotten in the end of one of those. But yeah, he needs to be doing more. That is one piece I've got coming up there on the talking point, obviously with the two fullbacks combining, because I think they're still, as much as they're both kind of doing well at the moment, I think there are two areas in the summer you might be looking for different sort of personnel. Will he go for another left back? Because if you've only got Ashley Young, who'll be 40 when next season starts in that area, and will Jake O'Brien move back to his more natural central role long time? But in terms of Mykolenko, yeah, he can do that. I was surprised really if that was his first assist, because he can put a decent cross in at times, and he is capable of doing that. So you want to be seeing more of that. He's had a very sort of up and down Everton career, struggled under Frank Lampard, which is ironic given that he obviously had Ashley Cole as the first team coach, best Premier League left back. Well, it's quite cool. Damning really, to the fact that he was his coach and he couldn't get a tune out of Mykolenko, because to be fair to Dyche, the full season that Dyche had, Mykolenko was probably one of the most improved players.
He scored a couple of goals under Lampard, if I remember rightly.
He's got was it at Leicester, the worldie, but very
Palace as well.
Palace.
That was Dyche, wasn't it? That's the Palace one. But yeah, so he was really good last season, but then struggled the first half of this season, got caught out of position a lot, didn't he? So he's been a real sort of up and down Everton career. So yeah, I'd like to see more of that from Mykolenko, because he does have it in his locker.
What have you got to not forget as well is that the fact that he's playing and there's nobody else to play at left back. And he's playing week in, week out. And he's obviously playing through injections and injuries quite a lot of the time when we probably would have needed to have rested him. And he's probably gone, do you know what, get your body on the line for us. I think the Merseyside derby last season when we won 2-0, I think that was a perfect example of that, where he was putting his body on the line and he had to go off injured, and then he missed, I think, the rest of the season after that. So yeah, he's playing week in, week out, and listen, it wears down on the body. He's playing obviously for Ukraine as well. So he's a good professional. Whether he's going to be the left back to take us from where we are to be challenging in Europe, I'm not so sure, but he's a steady left back. Let's make sure about that.
Europe?
Oh, why not? Well, the thing is, if
we're closer to Europe than we are to the bottom.
If they'd have beaten United, and then, like we said, could have beaten Brentford last night, it'd have been an extra 4 points. They'd be right in the thick of it. Joe Thomas was talking about this. I said, it probably is a bit, getting ahead of yourselves, but no, that could have easily happened. If Everton had won last night, Moyes would have picked up as many points this season as Dyche did over the entire first half of the season. Shows you how far they've come.
Yeah, definitely.
What gets you Europe now? Is it 8th?
Mate, it depends on what happens in the Carabao Cup as well.
Okay.
And it also depends on the teams in the currently in the Europa and the conference as well, maybe. It's very, very complicated, isn't it, in terms of how far it goes down, but maybe even 8 might get you there. Who knows? But listen, what we need to do is finish as high as we can. It reminds me the finishing Everton are doing at the moment is when Crystal Palace was the back end of last season, when they went on a big run, didn't they? When they had Eze and Elise, and they were banging in goals towards the end of the season, and everyone's like, "Oh, you don't want to be playing Crystal Palace towards the back end." I think a lot of teams will be looking at Everton now, going, "You don't want to be playing them. You do not want to be playing Everton, especially with the remaining games at Goodison Park."
Don't want to be playing against Beto.
Come on, let's get on with it.
We might as well come on to it. Chris, let's start with your player ratings. Yeah. I went on your player ratings last night and I was very surprised that you gave Beto a 5. I might be the only one who thinks that. I honestly thought, okay, he missed 3 gilt-edged chances, which probably inevitably cost us the 3 points. I get all that. However, I thought his overall play, if anything, he was probably second, maybe third. In terms of best player on the pitch, chances aside, I thought Jake O'Brien was probably man of the match, even without the goal that he scored. But yeah, do you want to explain yourself with a 5 for Beto?
Yeah, do I have to explain myself? A player misses 3 gilt-edged chances.
Exactly.
And would have lost the game if it hadn't been for Jake O'Brien. Exactly. Some would say maybe he did well to get 5 because Moyes, to be fair, was brought out the positives again. He said, because let's have it right. Beto's he's been transformed, hasn't he, under David Moyes? Okay, he's had to turn to him only because Dominic Calvert-Lewin got injured. He continued with Dom at the start, and then obviously he's been left as his only fit senior striker. 5 goals in the last 4 games. He's been incredible. I spoke to him after Palace. He's a lovely guy. We all love Beto. We all love his attitude. And again,
no, don't love him enough, obviously.
But he gets into the. He did the hard thing. That was the thing, especially with the last chance, the one at the end. He, put the afterburners on and got in that great position. And that's been how he's done so well in recent weeks, as he has been cool in front of goal. He's shown that assuredness. It just wasn't his night last night in terms of all that. The first chance, I thought, made the wrong decision for me. I would like to have seen another of those cool first-time finishes, but instead he almost seems like he was trying to go around the keeper. Second one, at least he tried to do the right thing, but then it wasn't a good finish at all. It's too close to Flecken. And then the third one, probably should have done better again after, like I said, doing the hard work. So yeah, if you miss 3 chances at that level, I mean, that was the problem when Everton went behind. You can't expect to miss those kind of opportunities and not get punished in the Premier League. So yeah, pat on the back on the one hand, he, as Moyes said, he got into those positions, and that's the important thing. He is at least getting into those positions, and that was a big thing under Dyche. They just weren't creating the chances, weren't getting on the end of things. He is doing that, because you'd often have times when Dominic Calvert-Lewin would hardly have a sniff for 90 minutes. He's getting on the end of those chances, but yeah, I think in the Premier League you've got to take them. So I think, I don't know, like you say, it's a game of opinions, but I don't know. I'd imagine Tony and myself would probably have more support from our viewers on this one.
Let us know in the comments. What would you have given him as a player rating, Tol?
I'd have probably given him about the same. I agree with Bees. Listen, centre forward, you're there to do one thing: put the ball in the back of the net. And if you're not doing that, let's see everything else about your game. And I agree with you. He's improved over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Totally understand that theory behind it. I think that's partly down to David Moyes playing to his strengths as well. I don't think playing long balls up to him does him no favours. I think what Everton are doing now is getting in the ball behind defenders for him to run onto. I've had a look at his 5 goals that he scored in recent weeks, and 4 of them with 1 touch. I think the second one, the only one where he's used 2 touches was with Crystal Palace, and that was just like to control it, and then he arched his body around to put it in the back of the net. So what that tells me is that when he doesn't think, when he hasn't got time to think, he's hitting it straight away and it's hitting the back of the net. 3 one-on-ones yesterday when he's got time to think, and that's the difference. I'm not talking Erling Haaland, your Mo Salahs of the world, where they're ruthless. I'm talking the likes of Wissa, for example, or Wayno, or Watkins, or Delap. Even they get them chances one-on-one, they bury them. And that's the second tier, I think, in terms of strikers in the Premier League. You've got to be ruthless. If you want to win games of football, Everton come away from that game with 3 points if Beto's got his shooting boots on. And I understand he's done well recently. And I just said, that's my theory behind it. When he's got time to think, that's when panic sets in. I think he's all over the place and he's not assured enough. I think when he's just got no time to think, bang, it's in the back of the net.
People said that about Calvert-Lewin, though.
Yeah, exactly, and I agree. Ideally, do we want any of them to be leading us into the Bramley Moor? We want a better striker, don't we? I think we can all in agreement right now that we'd want a better centre forwards playing up front for Everton in August at the Bramley Moor. Who's better than Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Who's better than Beto? I think we're all in agreement with that.
All right, well, I'm glad you brought that up. So you tweeted last night, this was obviously before the third missed chance. So you said, there's the difference. You can't miss 2 one-on-ones and expect to win football games. Ruthless strikers win games of football for your team, which I completely agree. However, this is going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, and it's probably another podcast for itself, but I don't think that in the summer, for us, all the money that we potentially may have to spend, we're not going to go out there and sign an elite striker.
They might not have Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's gone. So they'll have to.
No, I'm not saying we're not going to sign a striker. I'm talking we're probably not going to be able to sign an elite striker.
Well, what David Moyes is very good at is finding them players to become elite players. That's what he's very, very good at, David Moyes. Right. See what he's done at West Ham with Jared Brown. No one's there's Jared Bowman who's playing for Hull. Next minute.
But he's more of a winger though, isn't he?
But what I'm trying to say, he will find players to become elite players. That's what Moyes is very, very good at. He's done it at his first stint at Everton. He's done it at West Ham. And I'll bet me bottoms dollar he'll do it here at Everton. He'll find them players. The likes I was just touched on, Ollie Watkins come from the Championship. Delap was come from Manchester City's academy. Wissa and Wayno, they were from the Championship. Brighton, their academy. Brighton have got players that are coming from all over the world. He will find that next player to become the one who's more ruthless, who's better at finishing than Beto, than Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And that is the difference. That will take you from just keeping your heads above water to the top 6, top 7. And that is the difference between them teams. That's why Ollie Watkins is playing for Aston Villa. They're them players that will go, do you know what, bang, it's in the back of the net. And that's why Beto, for all he's done well over the last couple of weeks, you've got to finish not one of them out of 3 one-on-ones.
He scored 5 and 5 though.
Exactly. I understand that. By the way, we played against one of the worst teams in Leicester where he got 2 goals. Okay, one was a first-time shot against Manchester United and the one against Crystal Palace. Yeah, and as I've just touched on, when Beto's got time to think, that's when he struggles. He reminds me of a Dennis Strakwalerski or a Marcus Bent. They'll run all day for you and they'll be a cult hero and everything else, and no one's questioning their attitude. And we love them types of players. But at the end of the day, you want to do an end product. And that's the difference between... And David Moyes has referred to it several times. We've got an elite stadium. We need elite players to play in it. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Beto are not elite players.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying that Beto is an elite player. That's not what my argument is. I think there's a little bit of confusion. You're talking about David Moyes going out and getting the likes of Jared Bowen and making him better. I agree with you. I think he could potentially get the next Jared Bowen and make him better. But Jared Bowen's not a striker as such. He's a winger. He will play on the wing. He might be able to play up front, but he's not a striker as in a centre forward, is he? So what I'm asking you in terms of expectation, because my expectation is this: who are the elite strikers in the league, in your opinion, right now? And Chris, you can
Salah, Haaland, Isak.
No, but he's not a striker though, is he? Do you know what I mean? He's more of a...
Isak, Haaland.
Sorry, Isak, Salah's not. Do you know what I'm
I know what you mean. But
Isak and Haaland they're the elite ones.
Basically, lads who are getting 25 goals a season, who are ruthless in front of goal, their shot conversion is a lot better than anyone else's.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. They are the big differences in numbers. Getting your shot conversion, scoring goals. And I get what you're saying, they play in different positions. Salah and Bowen, Isak, they're all different. But one-on-one, they bury. You never see Salah miss a one-on-one. If he does, you'll never ever see him miss a second one.
But we're never going to sign Isak, a Haaland or a Salah.
But you find the next one. That's what I'm saying.
No.
You find Romelu Lukaku, for example. You go and find that next tier that will make it.
He's the only elite striker we've probably had in the club for the past 30, 35 years. Yeah. So that's how hard it is to find one.
Of course. And that's why the recruitment team are there. That's why David Moyes hangs his hat on his recruitment and his scouting network.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, expectation-wise, like, so every single team, probably in the top 6, 7, are probably going to be looking for an elite striker in the summer. Liverpool are.
Of course.
Man United are. Maybe not Manchester City. Got Haaland. Arsenal are. That's the reason why they haven't been able to sustain the title challenge. Tottenham just spent 60 million on Dominic Solanke. So would you class him as an elite striker?
Not really, no.
So
but he could become that elite striker.
Okay, well, that's obviously just potential. What I mean is, Tottenham spent 60 million on
Chelsea will be in the market for him as well.
Exactly. So we're probably going to be like 10th on the list of players who are potentially going to come to Everton.
I understand that, but that's where your recruitment team have got to be looking at the Championship. Going to Manchester City's academy, look at Ipswich you've done.
I don't think you're going to get an elite player from the Championship.
Well, Delap, for example. Delap walks in our team.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but you're saying we need an elite striker?
But that's what I'm trying to say. They will become elite players. Moyes will find them at a maybe a young age, or go and find a gem from France or Holland or Spain, and then he'll make them become elite players. That's what you've got to go and do. You've got to find that next level, the ones that, hang on, he's got something about him. I'll coach him. I'll work with him. And then make them to become elite players. I think, like Ollie Watkins, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we haven't even mentioned Ollie Watkins. Is he elite?
It's one of them, yeah.
Yeah. But he wouldn't come to Everton right now.
Of course he wouldn't. But what I'm trying to say is that he wasn't at the time. Signed for Aston Villa from Brentford, from the Championship. Went to Aston Villa. No one said he's not elite. But now, look at him. 50, 60 million Arsenal willing to buy him. Says a lot. No. And that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Go and find them gems, which David Moyes is very good at.
I think what he'll do is, and this is just my personal opinion, he might be wrong, he'll do exactly what you're saying, but he'll find them to play around the striker. I think we'll try and sign a striker in the summer. If Calvert-Lewin goes, we're definitely going to need to sign a striker in the summer, because we'll only be left with Beto and Chimiti. But I think the way Moyes works, he knows that to sign an elite striker, you need to spend big money, and we're not going to have that. And like I said, we're going to be like probably 10th on the list of, players who will want to come to Everton. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does try to sign like a Delap or a Bowen. Like, I know Delap's a forward, but like a Bowen who's more of a winger. Not him as such, but just an example.
Do you know what? It's also interesting. It depends on the style of football he wants to play as well. We're presuming that he may play the way he's playing up front. They're the cards he's been dealt with at the moment with this squad. Jack Harrison probably won't be there. Jasper Lindstrom probably won't be there. Well, so all these players, he's going to go, hang on, well, I don't want to play this way. I might want to play with two up front. I might want to play a 4-3-3. He might play all different ways. This is the way David Moyes, and that's what I like about him. He's flexible. The previous manager wasn't. It was obviously rigid, where David Moyes goes, do you know what, I might play with two. We've seen the Merseyside derby. How many teams will throw two up front into the best team in Europe? David Moyes, he went, I'm Doucouré and I want Beto and I want you touch tight, and be pressed and pressed and pressed. Not many teams will do that to Liverpool.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, Chris, come in on this, because I think it is a genuine, interesting debate, and it's been sparked after he scored 5 in 5, but he has missed 3 big chances last night. Another case for defence for him, if I'm going to be honest. It's not too critical on the wingers, Harrison and Lindstrom, but what service are they actually providing for him in terms of quality balls? If anything, Beto made a lot of those chances himself, in a way.
Yeah, a lot of it, the passes are coming through the centre, aren't
they? Through Garner, aren't they? And obviously,
it's not the crosses coming in for him. Like you said, even when it was a cross in the end, that was the fullback for the other fullback. But that's been, as you say, Jack Harrison and Jesper Lindstrom are both doing all right and putting a shift in at the moment. But
they've got the work effort there, haven't they?
But both of them, 2 players in the final third of the pitch. What we now 2/3 away into the season, had an assist or a goal between them. It's not good. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. And with them both being lone players, he wouldn't take up either of those options. I wouldn't think they've done a job. You know, Jack Harrison's done well in difficult circumstances the last couple of years, but he's been probably worse this season than he was the year before, because he scored that great goal against Bournemouth at the start. And you think, oh, he's got that in the locker. He's capable of doing that, but not been able to sort of replicate that this year. As much as Lindstrom can be a threat on his day, it's just not quite happened for him. He's doing better now under Moyes, but still, yeah. In terms of the striker stuff and all you've been saying, then you can obviously see both sides. It really, in terms of, as Toe says, trying to find that next gem. That's what he's so good at. Certainly, first time round, he'd unearthed those players. A lot of them out in the Championship. You know, Tim Cahill's, Lescott, all these players. The second tier, but it was a bit of the holy grail for him in the first one, in that he broke the transfer record, didn't he, for the club 3 times with centre forwards, with James Beattie, Andrew Johnson, and then Yakubu. And other than maybe, I mean, Yakubu was great, and then he got the injury, but for the others, certainly Beattie, and to a lesser extent Johnson, didn't quite happen for him, and it was ironic, really. We've been mentioned already. Romelu Lukaku came under Martinez after that, and it says who he's actually going to be able to sort of identify. I mean, it just makes me think back to when we had Tony Cottee in here on Goodison Park, my home. He was talking about the modern strikers, because all of us who remember Tony Cottee, you know, he's just all about goals. That's what he was about just a pure finisher, wouldn't necessarily bring you much else to the table. But he was saying the way that modern football is now, there's less of those sort of instinctive pure finishes. I mean, Robbie Fowler across the park was another one. Now it's more like you got to run into the channels, do this, do that. You're more like, an all-round forward player for the team. But you've got that, and then we've mentioned not just Everton, but a lot of teams in the Premier League, including Arsenal. There's elusive search for that kind of player, because that player doesn't seem, I don't say it doesn't exist, because you've got the likes of Haaland and those other ones we've mentioned, but they don't seem to be as prevalent in the modern game. So that does probably mean that they're tougher to sort of find, and as you said, in terms of maybe building a team around a striker, with sort of having a few attacking midfielders, or as Toe says, whether you're going to go 4-3-3 or whatever, having attacking players, but not necessarily, you know, the centre forward being the total focal point of the team. So it'd be interesting how that one pans out. But I would think that as well as Beto has done, and he's exceeded all our expectations, and we're glad that he's finally getting a chance to enjoy his time playing for Everton, and Evertonians enjoying seeing him. You, in an ideal world, you'd be wanting an upgrade, wouldn't you, for the new stadium and those increased expectations next season? But that's like the $1 million question, is it? Who actually fills those boots come the summer?
And you've got to forget as well, tend to forget, sorry, that Chimity, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out on loan. Calvert-Lewin, obviously contract's up, so what happens? You're left with Betto up front. He will sign 100% a striker in the summer.
I don't disagree. I think a striker will
just
come in.
Just finding that gem.
It's whether it'll be an understudy as such to Beto, or whether we're going to splurge and, you know, spend 30-40 million. Because that's what you're going to need.
I'll be all over Delap, mate.
That's what you're going to need.
If Ipswich goes down, I'll be all over Delap. I'm sure Everton won't be the only ones. We've just touched on nearly half the league when it's centre forward, and it's difficult.
Arsenal, second, third in the league, whatever.
Liverpool,
they can't sign a striker
Liverpool about to win the league.
And they need a striker.
They've spent 80-90 million on Nunes, and he's not good enough.
Exactly.
And that
comes with recruitment, though, isn't it?
Of course, and it all boils down to recruitment. You've got to go and find your scouts. We've seen endless tales, I'm sure Chris will tell you, about how many times Joleon Lescott was watched by David Moyes, who we heard 15 to 21 times. He's obsessed with making sure he gets the right player. And if we have to do that, then so be it. But I'll guarantee there'll be players out there playing in the Championship, playing in all over Europe, that'll be bought this summer. They'll hit the ground running straight away. Now, as we've seen, like I said, Newcastle signed Alexander Isak. They buy him for 40-50 million? They are out there. I'm not saying that we have to pay that, but the likes of Ipswich bought Delap for 20 million. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the market we can get in, get them players to become the elite players then.
I mean, we'll definitely come on to this on future podcasts, but we don't know what's going to happen with Kevin Thelwell and his future. But I honestly would hand Moyes the reign of who he
100%.
wants. Like, no questions asked, because I think we're kind of agreeing but disagreeing in the same way. He would find the gem. I just think the problem is, without repeating myself, to find that striker gem, that forward who's going to get you 20, 25 goals a season. And we haven't really had that up until Lukaku, have we? And we were very lucky in a way to get Lukaku, just in circumstance that he was, wasn't wanted by Chelsea, and he came to us under Martinez. I just think the market's gonna be so competitive, and there's just very rarely many out there, and we've already named the ones who you'd say are elite strikers who would score your goal, but you're looking at above 50, 60 million.
Again, that's it. We'll touch on it, and we'll probably speak about it in the next 5 or 6 weeks. It's your recruitment team. You'll hang your hat on guys who are scouting, watching these players in lower leagues and all around Europe. And you think about it, what Moyes is getting out of this current team at the moment. Beto, we know he's not the elite player. 2 lone players on either wing, they're not good enough. And he's squeezing out of everything out of them. So imagine with actually quality players. Look at Iliman Ndiaye, for me, is the one quality player we have got in that team. You go, wow. Obviously, Jared Brantwaite speaks for himself, but the one you go, wow, he has got it. And you've seen what David Moyes has done to him. He was under the previous manager. He was playing as a left back. Iliman Ndiaye, that goal against Tottenham was something else. We'd never seen that. Getting the ball on the halfway line, taking 2 or 3 plays on, putting the top corner. That's Alex Young stuff. That's what it is. That's what Iliman Ndiaye is. So imagine David Moyes with elite players to pick from. I think we'll see a better Everton.
I just think a lot of people were quite harsh on Beto last night. I know, everyone's just going to go, well, he missed 3 gilt-edged chances, and that's fine. But the theme, and this is not a dig at you or anything like that, but the theme was people who've kind of written him off in the past were ready to jump on his back a little bit.
And I was first to hold my hands up how well he's been doing recently.
No, exactly.
When he's not thinking, bang, it's in the back of the net.
I think that the thing to remember is that he needs to be judged probably over a prolonged period of time rather than just the 5 games. Yeah, he's had a good start, if you can say that, since being thrust back into the team. But let's face it, I like Calvert-Lewin. I like his attitude. I like, the type of way that he plays. And I know he's struggled to score goals, but we've had a striker in Calvert-Lewin who probably went 19 games without a goal. I think maybe if Betto starts doing that, maybe we can start judging him a little bit more. But let's see how he goes towards the end of the season anyway. We'll finish off because, what do we know, 46 minutes. But just a quick word on Alcaraz. He definitely didn't have his shooting boots on last night. I mean, he had a good game. I think he played well. However, there was a couple of attempts from outside the box which were a little bit wayward.
Yeah, it was wrong because obviously he's such a different sort of threat in that same area than Decore, different type of player completely. But yeah, I like it. His attitude is something different. It reminds me in a way. Obviously he's not at the same sort of level, but Wayne Rooney, he's a street footballer for me, and Everton haven't had a lot of that in recent years. And again, maybe it's the changing of the times and the way people play football, or they don't, and you've maybe got to go to South America to get those sort of players. He's silky smooth on the ball, but he's got that tenaciousness about him as well. And he got flattened at one point, didn't he? But he got back up, and he's got a bit of bite to his game. He'd be one. He's probably done more in his short period on loan than either Lindstrom or Harrison have, to be fair.
100%.
Yeah, if it's in the ball's in Everton's court whether they want to give him the game time to make that deal a goer or not. But I understand it's not necessarily a massive price for him. But yeah, something about him that the Evertonians can take to, and I like his attitude, and I think there's a lot more in store really, if you can get a prolonged sort of period out of him as well. So yeah, I've liked what I've seen from him so far, and as I said, considering he's come in. I know he obviously had a previous spell in England with Southampton, but coming in from Brazilian football at Flamengo, where he was their most expensive signing and hadn't necessarily pulled up too many trees there. He's looked decent so far.
I agree. I totally agree.
Well, is it too early to say you would sign him? I mean, he's had previous experience, as Chris mentioned, at Southampton, so that has helped him. But probably a little bit too early for me, even though it is promising signs.
Yeah, there's loads of promising signs there. I think you can see why David Moyes likes him. I think when David Moyes first came in, he did mention that we need players to help us in this window who've got Premier League experience, and he emphasised that quite a lot in press conferences. And it's no surprise that the one player that we did sign did have that Premier League experience in Alcaraz. Yeah, I like him. Obviously, he works his backsides off, which you'd expect from a David Moyes signing. But not just that, again, as I touched on there, you wouldn't be surprised if you seen him playing centre midfield. You wouldn't be surprised if you seen him playing in a false nine, even at right back. You know, if the numbers were short,
Yeah, it just fits in.
you can imagine him playing at right back for you. Do a job, and you know what you're getting out of him. I think he's got a bit of end product as well to him. I know we've seen a goal against Crystal Palace, but he's got something about him in the final third. Yeah, his shooting boots weren't on against Brentford, but he was just wide with ones. It wasn't even just missed the post, but. I like him. I really do. I like him. There's something about him that you can get behind. He doesn't throw the towel in. If there's a misplaced pass, he'll get back. I think he's a typical Everton player that the Everton fans love.
Do we know if it was a Kevin Thelwell radar signing, or was it a David Moyes radar signing, or does it matter?
Well, to be fair, I say I spoke to Charlie Alcaraz, but there was a load of us before the trip to the new stadium, the first game. We all the Merseyside pack, we spoke to him en masse at the Titanic Hotel, and it was all through Phil Dickinson, who's a great translator, and he did a great job there. But Phil didn't need to do a job for my question. He understood my question. I asked him about the celebration, and he understood about that. But what he did say to somebody else's question was that Everton had been tracking him for a long time, and before he'd actually gone back to Brazil. So that suggests he has been on the Thelwell radar, whether obviously Moyes has rekindled that when he came in, but given that answer that he gave, to be fair, it looks like he's been one that I haven't been watching for a while.
Okay, well, we'll finish off there. Any final thoughts before we do? It's obviously a weekend off for Everton. Don't play now till the 8th of...
Wolves, Saturday night.
A nightmare for you again, Chris, another late one.
Thrown to the walls. Yeah.
What's the hotel travel situation?
Well, the problem we got,
one?
I've been the same for the fans, to be fair, with this one. Although more so for us, because obviously we're working for 2 hours after the game. But Wolves is actually one of the ones where if you can go on the train, it's a fast train down there. It's a bit like when you go to London, it'll always take you longer to drive there. So if you're on the train, you can get there in about 90 minutes, whereas you're never going to drive that fast legally. Yeah, with it being the late finish, it's going to be another one on the road for Joe and I. But hopefully, yeah, like I said, a week in the United Arab Emirates sunshine. I believe it's a comfortable, like about 23 degrees at the moment, and then by the time Everton are checking out, it's probably going up to about 33 degrees. So they're missing that more sort of intense heat. So hopefully, it'll be a nice break for them, and sure there won't be any repeats of what necessarily went on in Portuguese restaurants last season. Hopefully, none of that. So yeah, come back. Chance for Moyes to sort of meet the players and on a more sort of personal level, and spend some nice days away and sort of bask in that glow of the march up. I won't say march up the table, but sort of moving away from the relegation zone, and hopefully it can recharge the batteries ahead of these games that they've got in the running.
And you know what? Isn't it nice that the fact that listen, we're more or less saying that we're staying up, but we can enjoy Goodison now. And you know what? 5 or 6 weeks ago, I think Evertonians were like, I wouldn't say dreading going to Goodison, but we're like,
just a chore.
It was a chore. Just please get a point, get a 0-0, and that was embarrassing. The fact that the points that we've got on the board, the players are getting obviously a well-earned rest, so to speak, in Dubai, and now the game, we're not playing this weekend, but we're going, do you know what? I can't wait. I bet you there's, 3,000 Evertonians that can't wait to get on that coach to Wolves in 2 weeks' time. And I bet there's 40,000 that can't wait to get to Goodison for West Ham game. You're enjoying going to Goodison now for it's last 5, count on one hand.
Yeah, fine.
And Connor mentioned to me last week, and when someone says that to you, you go, you can count on one hand how many games you left at Goodison. I went, whoa, and it just hit you then all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many Evertonians will be looking forward to that West Ham game. And we all are now. We're going to enjoy Goodison and give it the final send-off it deserves.
I wonder if Dan Freakin will make an appearance in Dubai in the sun as well. I'm sure he will. Meet the players.
Yeah, I just wonder when Mr. Freakin's going to show his face. Or maybe it will be the final game of the season. I don't know, because he's obviously gone long enough now without turning up. It's been a bit of a low-key start for him, which is obviously interesting, because you can imagine it would have been totally different with 777, who were there before they'd even got the takeover. But yeah, I wonder when we will see Mr. Freakin. Surely he's got to turn up before Goodison
just to go.
Just to see us all have a cry.
To be fair, Moyes made a comment, didn't he, in his press conference? He said the like a reference to the Freakin, people starting to filter in more. So there must be more people mulling around Finch Farm and Goodison Park.
And the potential new CEO coming up as well. So there'll be a lot of change happening in behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm just so happy that we can start to look forward to saying our farewells to Goodison.
I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to, waiting with bated breath, is the first time David Moyes goes into Bramley Moor, which he said he's not doing until mathematically safe. So hopefully not too far away now.
The more points that Ipswich and Leicester drop, and the more points that we take, the better.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, well, just my final thoughts. If you joined us late, and if you already joined us, just a reminder that the Steve Rotherham Everton Stadium podcast special will be out tomorrow on the Royal Blue YouTube channel and Royal Blue audio platforms. As Chris mentioned at the start, we've got a special interview which is going to be published on Monday, so keep an eye out for the announcement on that on Sunday as well, on all Liverpool Echo Everton FC social channels. That is all for today's show. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop us some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify if you haven't already. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Chris Beesley, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.